Hi, this is Catherine Lang-Cline, and this is The Secret Art of Business. And today, my guest is Bessie McIntosh, and her business is called Merkabody, which I am really intrigued to find out more about. So with that said, why don't you go ahead, Bessie, and tell me about your business?
Good morning, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's a pleasure. Merkabody. So Merkabody actually means light body spirit. I made a whole line of potent biohacking products that were made to really just manage your nervous system. We are working with different elements of the earth that most people haven't quite heard of yet. It's starting to come out into the hive consciousness that some people are like, what are those words you were trying to say? So I am working with things like ormus and shilajit and cannabinoids. And I've just made some really beautiful formulas that help women and their families release things like stress, tension, anxiety, pain, in order to gain clarity, focus, increase energy, and really just to feel badass and go out there in the world and do what you're supposed to do.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you're bringing that up because I think finally, people are starting to see the benefits of even like CBD and CBD oils and things I've ever seen that, show up just in grocery stores now. But for the longest time, people were like, oh, no, I'll stick with the doctor prescribed medication or just deep breathing exercises and that'll fix everything. But we're finding that actually when we go back to more natural things, we can find relief and, better things, better results when we are just kind of, digging back into what actually makes more sense, I guess, in a way.
Oh, absolutely. I'm under the belief that your body has the inherited ability to heal itself as long as you give it what it needs. And we're from nature, and nature has everything that we need. We just have to figure out exactly what it is our body wants or doesn't want. And when you figure out that puzzle for yourself, your body is going to create balance and health is just going to happen naturally.
I really love that. And I'm really kind of exploring some of that myself as I get older. And you're like, I don't think I like that hurting anymore. I think I'm kind of done dealing with my stress. What else you got out there? You're willing to kind of experiment, try other things. But you didn't start here as the maker of Merkabody. You were a child once. And I would love to know what you did when you were younger that kind of sparked some creativity or joy in your life.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a fun one. I was a pretty serious child, and somehow my mind has always been set for business. I believe I was 6 years old when I started my first business. I was really into rocks. And so I found all the pretty rocks, and I made myself a little rock stand on the side of my little dirt road in my little country town. And I stood there for most of the summer waiting for someone to stop and look at my pretty rocks. And, times were different back then. People didn't stop for the lemonade stand kids, and not one car stopped to look at my beautiful rocks. And, you would think that as a 6-year-old, you would be like, oh, I'm giving up. No one likes my rocks. But it fueled more of a passion for me. I actually thought everybody was crazy because my rocks were so pretty. And I wanted to share them with the world. And so that's kind of, I think, where the business kind of side came from. The other side, I was a desert kid. I played in the dirt. We were free to roam around the desert and explore. And as long as we were home before that sun came down, it didn't matter what we were doing. I would make peanut butter and jellies and a little container of Kool-Aid, and I would take my little brothers out and a couple of my friends, and we would just roam the desert free.
Isn't that crazy when you think about that now? But I love it. I do think that's kind of what kids are missing in a way, is a little bit of that freedom and exploration and things like that, where it's just like, I don't even know what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to go out and see what happens and just explore the world, which is really kind of cool.
Right. So, I think maybe creativity comes from boredom sometimes. Like you're so bored, something sparks up into your mind of like, well, I'm really bored. So what am I going to do? Well, maybe I'll just try doing this. Yeah. You kind of experiment and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Like, I used to be into like making mud pies too, like making mud pies with the little flowers on top. And
it's all that stuff. I love it. So there's definitely not a hard, you can very easily see how we can connect the dots between where you were as a kid and where you are now, because with the business mind for sure, but then also kind of with that love of nature and that, just kind of being out and realizing that, there's this world that could be a benefit to us kind of led you a little bit to where you are today.
Absolutely.
But what was your journey? Can you talk about that a little bit? Like how did you get from there to here?
Well, as a child, I became a teenager, and then I graduated from high school, and I became a very young mom. I'm actually a fresh empty nester, which
Oh my
is super
gosh.
fun. Can you imagine? Can you even believe that? Like, I have a 25 and a 20-year-old. So I spent a lot of years raising children, being a mom and being a businesswoman. And, you find that the world and the marketplace out there sometimes doesn't have the medicines you need in order to help your children. So I ended up with this company because I needed to help my son. And he had just terrible anxiety at the time when he was about 14 years old. Looking out into the world, we definitely didn't want to do pharmaceuticals. And so I was looking around like, what can we do? What does the earth have that's going to help my son with his anxiety? And, not harm him in the long term and actually benefit him. And so that's kind of how Merkabody was born. That's the short story of it all.
Well, that's actually really interesting because I have to kind of agree. I am, a firm believer in, there is a place for medicine and, like formal medicine and things like that. But when you're 14, do you really want to always be, that'd be like such a last resort for me to just say, well, okay, here's some medicine to calm down sort of thing. It's kind of like,
absolutely, like be one of those mom that's just drugging your kids. Like, and I understand that, as a mom, we just want to, we want to help them. We want to help them. But I just feel like I've been very blessed in knowing to look at nature first and then go to pharmaceuticals as a last resort. And I myself have been in that position where I've gone to pharmaceuticals as a last resort and then found that the pharmaceuticals really weren't making me feel good. And so then I backed off of them and found ways in nature to help me. And I can't blame anybody out there because our society has been taught, look outside yourself. Run to the doctor. If something's wrong, talk to the doctor. They're going to help you. And, a lot of times they can, but a lot of the times it doesn't really help create the balance in the body that we're looking for. So no shame in that.
Absolutely not. We all want to do what's best for our children. And the one thing that, I have been finding out too, just by reading a bunch of different things about this whole left brain, right brain balance, is that if people spend too much time on that left side, and they're not exploring the right side and being creative and breaking away from that can also lead to depression, which I thought was kind of interesting too. It's like, by denying yourself creativity and innovation and fun, you can actually work yourself into a depression. And I was thinking about I think about when I worked my hardest, I was kind of depressed. When I actually went out and did things fun, that I was like, oh, okay, well, I feel better now. So I think there's a lot to be said about, just rethinking things and not, getting too lost, I guess.
Oh, Catherine, I love that idea. And actually through my own healing journey in the last 5 years, I found that I was kind of working myself into an early grave. And what I was missing was the deep sense of creativity and really just having ridiculous play, ridiculous fun. So what happened there is I had a friend. I'm surrounded by artists. I love artists. A lot of my best friends are artists.
And I love to be around them because they're crazy.
And it's fun. And it's inspiring and it makes you feel alive. And at one point in time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I remember saying something to a couple of my artist friends. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not an artist. I'm just a businesswoman. And they all looked at me and they're like, babe, what are you talking about? You are an artist. The formulas you make, that's an art.
Oh my gosh.
The branding that you make, the way that you present your marketing. And it just it hit me like this big light bulb, Catherine. And I'm like, oh, I'm an artist. And then all of a sudden that allowed my creativity to be unleashed. And so, and part of that is just
permission to do it, which is so crazy. And the other thing that, like I said, I'm kind of exploring too, is how, we become so test heavy and STEM heavy that nobody's really kind of taught to be creative, given that permission to be creative. And I was just having a conversation recently about someone who was like, well, how did you know that you were creative? I'm like, somebody told me. Somebody told me. I didn't think I was an artist, but then somebody told me I was. And I'm like, well, how bizarre is that? Because we never talk about it in school, really, and we don't really, pursue that. But yet, and we eliminate it from school. And we have all these kids now that are just living in that left side of their brain, and they're not being a lot of chicks. I'm like, yeah, I know. I can tell by your face too. I'm like, that's very sad.
It's heartbreaking. And you're right. In school, you're not really told, unless you're one of the kids that are really shining in art, you're not really told that you're an artist. And then also, even if you are an artist in school and you are told you're an artist, a lot of the times I see that it's kind of, it's just kind of conditioned out of you, because it's like, well, you can't make money as an artist.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's kind of the point of this whole podcast, is that, you know what?
I love it.
It's so valuable. You have to be creative in order to be successful, because it's one hand in the other. And I think that, and I'm going to guess that you have, found success in your business when you do tap into both sides. So I'm going to ask you, when you're not, frantically crunching numbers with your business, what are you doing for fun?
Oh, I am so blessed to have such a fun community of people around me. It's the burner community. I don't know if you've heard of Burning Man or not at all.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, in Utah, we have a pretty...
And oh my God, you cannot get more creative than that either.
Oh yeah. So, that's a great way to tap into your inner child and get to build whatever you want. And the way I really interact with that community and interact with my own creativity is I love dressing up. I love costumery. I love making costumes. I love going out into the world and actually kind of giving permission to other people by dressing the way I dress, to be like, hey, why not? Why just wear the suit or the yoga pants? Why not put on a blue velvet jacket with ridiculous feather earrings and walk into a business meeting and just be like, and we're going to talk about this today. It's so much fun. But then in the desert, you can dress a little bit more crazy, and that just makes it so much more fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's so freaking exciting. So how long have you been doing Burning Man?
My husband and I, we ran into it very, very young, about 3 months after we graduated high school. And we only knew about it because we grew up in Nevada. And so the older kids would go and come back and we'd hear stories. And so we were kind of one of the first burners. And I did that and then decided to marry my husband and have children young, and didn't think about Burning Man again until about a decade, 15 years later. And I ran into a group of people, a community here in Utah. And I was just like, what? This is happening? I love these people. They're so creative and so real and so fun. And yeah, let's do this. And so I've only gone back to Burning Man a couple of times. So it's not so much about actually going into the desert, but it's about the creative community that has sprung up from it. And just kind of the mindset of there's no need to keep what they would call the default world, which is this world, and then the real world, which they consider Burning Man, that week at Burning Man. There's no need to keep it separate. You could totally integrate that into life and have a full, creative, prosperous life just by being exactly who you are.
I completely love that philosophy, and perhaps I should make my way out there sometime.
Please do. I would love to have you. We're actually having a little shindig in Green River at the end of April. We call it Building Woman, where we have workshops where we teach people different things, and then we have a lot of dress up, of course, and then we have bands all day. We get to play at the river and have a potluck together. It's pretty fun. So you should come out, be my guest.
That sounds really awesome, actually. Maybe suggest that to anybody who's listening, that if you feel like you need to kind of just dive right in, not just dabble with, I'm going to try knitting or something. You're going to go all in and do something really creative. I think that would be a really fun thing to do. If not, this particular event, but an event that's very similar, or even Burning Man for that matter. Just kind of observe and learn, and maybe go back thinking I got an idea for an out costume next time. That sort of.
Yeah, come out. You'll feel inclusion like you've probably never felt before. And we do have glamping out there for the people who don't really necessarily want to rough it, or you could just bring your RV, or you could just come and be in a tent, or just show up.
I love it. Thank you. So how do you find that benefits your business now? When you are coming off maybe that creative high and you got to get back to work, how do you feel that has really helped?
Well, there's a couple of things. When you were talking about regulating the nervous system, I completely agree. And I really love how you put it earlier, Catherine, when you were talking about, when we get so deep into work, studies have actually been shown that it can create depression. And again, that's an imbalance in the body. So I think there's two parts. One is the anticipation and looking forward to the play. right? Like you're just like, okay, so it's like motivating. You get like, if I just get through all of this in the next couple of months, and I get to play at the end of April, and it's going to be so much fun. And then on the other side of that, you come home inspired. You come home with so many ideas, and it just kind of fills up your cup. And it helps with the creative process of ideas. You usually make great connections because, of course, everybody is not just out there to party. Everybody's out there to build community, and you get to learn to meet new people. So it's kind of like networking as well. And then you just come home with a full cup, and you're just like, yeah, I'm fun, and I'm creative, and I got this, and I could do this. And then you just kind of see the little drips or the little ripples of what you thought or what you've created kind of drip into everything else. I really truly believe when you use a different part of your brain and you're using different skill sets, it kind of ripples out into every aspect of your life. And so that's where I found the creativity I've created in my own world helps my business and my whole life, really.
What is your favorite product? Like, if you could tell somebody about one thing today, what is like, oh my God, if you're going to give it a shot with something a little bit different, I'm going to recommend this.
Something a little bit different. So I have a product called Rise Shilajit. Are you familiar with Shilajit, Catherine?
I'm not, so maybe you should explain that first.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most people, I say that word and they're like, what words are you trying to speak?
Sounds
what
French.
Is that? So, Shilajit is ancient plant material that typically oozes out of rocks. And I was introduced to it. Yeah, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? I was introduced to it as a product from India about 20 years ago. And it came in this thick black tar substance, and you just like roll it into a little ball and put it in your mouth, and it tasted a little strong. But gosh, it just made you feel energized. And so for the last 20 years, I've just been using it. And about 5 years ago, I decided to look into Shilajit and see what happens if you added cannabinoids to it. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because Shilajit is chock full of over 84 ancient trace minerals, which most people are lacking just because our soil doesn't have the minerals in it anymore. So even if you're eating all organic fruits and vegetables, chances are you're not getting enough trace minerals. And so what happens in the body, if you're not getting enough trace minerals, you're actually not absorbing enough nutrients of anything else. So having trace minerals, huge biohack in life, huge booster. It's also full of fulvic acid, which is one of the building blocks of the body and can heal your mitochondria. So it works on a cellular level as well. And so you take that and you add some cannabinoids to it, you nano-emulsify it, you end up with this tincture that I call Rise. And when you take this in, it kind of activates your whole system. It almost feels like you have if you're into energetics, you can feel the grounding effect and almost like a pulling up at your crown. And then you end up with a boost of energy and like a clearer, sharp focus. And so that's what I would suggest to your audience because they're looking for a beautiful blend of business and creativity. And that one right there is my favorite product of all time. It's called Rise Shilajit.
I love it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to assume that it is all available at Merkabody.com, which
absolutely.
I will include that when I post this podcast, so people can get in touch with you and maybe want to give this a whirl because I think I might want to try this.
Oh, I would love it. I would love your feedback on it, especially with your understanding on the balance of business and art. And I have a lot of artists that use it. I have a lot of business people that use it, and a lot of moms, and a lot of dads, and a lot of veterans, and And
I'm a huge testimonial giver. So yeah, if I get some sort of results, I would definitely let you know. But that's really, really cool. And I loved your story and I love your creativity. And I think, it's very clear how not only just from talking with you, how your enthusiasm for what you do just really supercharges your business. Do you have any sort of big plans, coming up in this year or in the next 5 years of what you would like to do with this? Because, the kids are all gone. So, the world is your oyster. So you can either just really kind of just kick back and let this sail along, or you can do something really kind of new that you've never tried before. So what do you think you would like to try with your business?
Well, I don't know. Well, it definitely would be new. I just have this driving mission right now that I'm supposed to help 1 million women heal their bodies. And so I know, right? I was like, that download came down to me and I was like, oh, wow. And then I was like, oh, wow, really? Okay. So that's what I'm doing. My job is just to get out there and talk to as many people I can and really help women balance their bodies, because really what I have found is if you're living in an inflammatory nervous system dysfunction, you don't have time to really look into who you really are and to settle on what you were supposed to do on this earth. And I'm just feeling that right now is the time for every woman to like just step into her power and be doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing here on this earth. And my job is just here to help them be badass. So I want to see them go out there, figure out what it is they want to do and shine. So I can sit back and be like, good job, girl. You're so badass. I love it.
All right, Bessie, preach. You're saying all the right things in my world, that's for sure. And
well,
I think,
thank you.
again, your timing on this is really kind of impeccable. I think, the world is ready for this sort of thing, and you're tired of trying old things, and they're getting great results with some new things. And I think it's just a matter of you just, either getting on the right TV show or making the right connection to kind of bring this over the top, because it's all about people trying it. And like I said, I will throw all your information out. So if people are willing to try something a little different, they can definitely get in touch with you. But I appreciate you coming on today and telling your story. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Catherine. This has been so much fun. You are a delight. Thank you for having me.
Oh, right.